This video is not sponsored and has no adverts. Hello and thanks for joining me for some more landscape photography. Now in this video I thought I'd have a quick chat with you about my thoughts on built-in digital teleconverters in the OM series cameras. There's one in this OM5, I've got one in the OM1. I can't remember if there was one in the EM1 Mark II that I used to have, but probably, who knows. The point being that I never used them. I just assumed that because it's digital it would be a bit rubbish. And also they only output JPEGs, which is still the case even in the latest cameras. So I just thought, well, that won't be any use to me at all. But the other day I was thinking to myself, well, I've been using this lovely little 35 to 100 Lumix lens as my main telephoto lens recently. In fact, this 40 to 150 hasn't come out with me since I bought this lens. That's not to say that I would never use this again, because from time to time the extra 50mm is quite handy. Anyway, I was setting up the custom menu on this and I was going through all the menu options, deciding which ones I wanted to have handy, and I came across digital teleconverter and I thought, yeah, that extra 50mm that this gives me, maybe the teleconverter can do that for me. And anyway, I should really give it a try, because who knows. So I set up a very scientific experiment. I'm sat at my desk here, looking kind of past you out of my window, which is immediately in front of me. And what I did was I switched on the teleconverter, dialed this lens out to 100mm, and took a shot of the ferns growing on my front wall. Now that is about, well, I don't know, 30 feet, maybe 9 meters, something of that ilk, so it's quite a way off. So I took that shot and then I thought, okay, oh, and by the way, the window is very dirty, so you know, I'm pushing the boundaries of this experiment, because I'm shooting this at 100mm, which is as long as it's supposed to go. I didn't touch my settings, they were pretty standard, probably f5.6, something like that. Fast enough shutter speed so that I freeze the action, such as it is. Anyway, but the key thing being that it should produce the worst possible results. So I shot it with this. Then I thought, okay, well, let's try it with this. So I'm shooting at an equivalent of 200mm, which full frame now is 400mm. This I shot at 150, so with a teleconverter 300mm, full frame equivalent 600mm. And then I thought, yeah, okay then. Well, I've done all that. So let's have a look at how this lens performs. So I stuck this on my OM5 because it was all shot on the OM5. This is the 75 to 300 kit lens. It's not a bad lens, but to be honest, it's a little bit soft at the long end. I mean, you wouldn't normally use it at 300mm, but for the purposes of this experiment, that's exactly what I did. And I have to tell you, I've been absolutely astounded by the quality of the results. And if we just take a quick look through these, I think you'll see what I mean, because bear in mind these are JPEGs. Now I have enhanced them ever so slightly because, well, why wouldn't you? I'm not going to deliberately tie one arm behind my back. The whole point was that I wanted to know, does this digital teleconverter fulfill a function for me? Could I rely on it in the field? So here's the first image shot at 100mm, so that's 200mm converted. And of course the other benefit of this is by not using a physical teleconverter, and in any case there isn't one that works with these lenses, but by not using a physical teleconverter I'm not losing that stop of light that I would lose. So the MC 1.4 loses a stop of light. The MC 2.0 loses 2 stops of light. So on that lens at 300mm, which is 6.7, in effect I'm down to f11 or thereabouts, wide open. Anyway, then with a 40 to 150, now a couple of things that you do have to bear in mind with using the digital teleconverter. Firstly, you do have to set the camera up to record JPEG and RAW. And The other thing is that when you're looking through the viewfinder, you're seeing the 2x teleconverter version. But of course, if you find that you're not happy with that output, you still have the raw file to work with. But here's where it gets really, really interesting. This third image is the one that is shot at 300mm micro four thirds times 2 teleconverted to 600mm micro four thirds, a 1200mm equivalent shot through a dirty window 9 meters away. And I think you'd have to agree that isn't a bad image quality at all. There's absolutely no artifacts or fringing or anything around the outlines of the ferns against the soft background. And that really caught my attention. So the bottom line is I put it on my custom menu, and I've actually already used it out in the field. I was out last weekend with some people on a group workshop at Llanddwyn Island, and there was this fabulous light and hailstorm on the mainland, about 8 miles away line of sight. And with my digital teleconverter, this is what I was able to get. Now, it was a quick snap. I didn't set the shot up in any way at all. I was working with people, and it would have been horribly improper to spend any time on my own photography. But the fact remains that this demonstrated to me that when I'm out and about in the hills and I just want to travel as light as possible, and this little 100mm lens just can't quite get as far out as I need, I can rely on the digital teleconverter. This image was shot at, I think, in the end, 60mm. So that's an equivalent of 120mm, 240mm full frame. I would have composed it differently. I probably wouldn't have used the foreground at all if I was going to make this photograph seriously. But as a field experiment to build on what I'd done shooting out my window, it reinforced what I'd already decided. So if, like me, you've completely disregarded the Olympus built-in digital teleconverters, give it a go. I think you'll find it produces a lot better results than you might think, even if it's only outputting a JPEG. So, going to leave it there for this one. Really hope you found it interesting. And if you did, why not subscribe and join me next time? Cheers.